The greatest mystery of the Odyssey was never its monsters. It was one man. Did Odysseus ever really exist? For nearly 3,000 years, no one has been able to answer that question. Because if Odysseus was real, then one of history's greatest epics may preserve more than myth. It may preserve memory. But to find the man, we first have to find his world. For centuries, that world was dismissed as fiction. Then archaeology uncovered ancient kingdoms once thought to be nothing more than legend. Suddenly, the line between history and myth was no longer clear. So before we ask whether Odysseus was real, we have to ask something even more surprising. How much of the Odyssey was real?
For centuries, the Odyssey was celebrated as one of the greatest works of fiction ever written. A story filled with monsters, gods, and impossible adventures. Most historians agreed on one thing. It was literature, not history. Then, archaeology changed the conversation. Across Greece, excavations uncovered powerful Bronze Age kingdoms that matched the world Homer described. Ancient records revealed real palaces, real kings, and real governments. Then came the biggest surprise of all. The legendary city of Troy, once dismissed as myth, was found to have a real historical foundation. It didn't prove every story Homer told, but it proved his world was far more real than anyone had imagined. And that leaves us with one question. If Troy was real, could the Odyssey preserve history too?
Long before the Odyssey was ever written, its story lived in memory. Traveling poets carried it from one generation to the next. They had no books, no recordings, only their voices. Each retelling preserved the story, but each retelling also changed it. Some details disappeared, others grew more dramatic. Yet the names of kingdoms, the memory of wars, and distant places survived. By the time Homer's poems were written down, they described a world that had already vanished centuries earlier. If any truth survived, it survived inside those memories. Now the question was whether archaeology could find it. For centuries, there was almost no evidence that Homer's kingdoms had ever existed. Then, the ground began to tell a different story. Across mainland Greece, archaeologists uncovered enormous Bronze Age citadels, surrounded by massive stone walls. Inside them were royal palaces, storerooms, workshops, and ceremonial halls. Even more revealing were hundreds of clay tablets written in an early form of Greek known as Linear B. These were not myths. They were government records. They listed taxes, weapons, livestock, and trade with remarkable precision. Together, they revealed a civilization powerful enough to inspire epic stories. Not every hero had been proven, but the world they lived in was becoming increasingly difficult to dismiss. If one place changed the debate forever, it was Troy. For nearly 2,000 years, many believed it existed only in Homer's poems, a city remembered through legend, but lost to history. Then, archaeologists excavated a hill called Hisarlik in modern-day Turkey. Beneath the surface, they uncovered the remains of multiple ancient cities built over thousands of years. One layer belonged to the late Bronze Age. It was heavily fortified, richly constructed. and it matched the location long associated with ancient Troy. The discovery did not prove the Trojan horse. It did not prove Achilles, and it did not prove Odysseus. But it proved something just as important. The city that inspired Homer's story was not imaginary.
History had recovered the stage. Now, all that remained was to find its actors. Unlike Troy, Odysseus has never been found. No inscription carries his name. No royal tomb can be identified as his. No Bronze Age document describes the journey told in the Odyssey. At first, that sounds like the end of the story. But archaeology rarely works that way. Most records from the Bronze Age were created to manage kingdoms, not remember individuals. Even rulers we know were real sometimes survive only as broken names on damaged tablets. History has erased countless lives. So instead of asking whether Odysseus can be proven, historians ask a different question. Could a king like Odysseus have existed? Within the Mycenaean world, the answer is yes. Whether one ruler inspired the legend or many lives became one hero is something archaeology still cannot answer. To understand the Odyssey, we have to understand the sea. The Mediterranean was not an empty world filled with myths. It connected powerful civilizations across 3 continents: Egypt, the Hittites, the Mycenaean kingdoms, Cyprus, and the cities of the eastern Mediterranean. Merchant ships carried copper, tin, olive oil, wine, ivory, and luxury goods between distant ports. Recent archaeological discoveries have revealed shipwrecks loaded with cargo from many different cultures. These waters were busy, prosperous, and dangerous. Storms could appear without warning. Hidden reefs could destroy a ship within moments. Strong currents could push sailors far from home. For those who crossed these seas, survival depended on experience. And every dangerous voyage became another story worth remembering. The monsters of the Odyssey are often seen as proof that the story is pure fantasy. But what if they preserved something real? Take Scylla and Charybdis. Homer described 2 deadly dangers so close together that escaping one meant risking the other. Many historians believe this could reflect the very real hazards of navigating narrow sea passages with violent currents and hidden rocks. Then there are the sirens. Rather than supernatural creatures, they may represent dangerous coastlines where countless sailors were lost. Over generations, those deadly places became unforgettable legends. Even the Cyclops has inspired debate. Some researchers suggest that ancient discoveries of prehistoric elephant skulls may have helped create stories of one-eyed giants. None of these ideas can be proven, but they reveal something important. Perhaps Homer wasn't inventing an imaginary world. Perhaps he was transforming real dangers into stories that people would never forget. Long before history was written, it was remembered. Generation after generation, storytellers carried the past through spoken words alone. Every retelling preserved something. Every retelling changed something. Details faded. Heroes grew larger. The impossible slowly became believable. Yet archaeology has shown that memory can preserve remarkable truths. Real kingdoms, real cities, real civilizations.
Perhaps the Odyssey survived for the same reason. Not because every event happened exactly as Homer described, but because the story protected the memory of a world that truly existed. And after nearly 3,000 years, that memory is still leading archaeologists to ask new questions.
So, did the Odyssey really happen?
The honest answer is both simpler and more fascinating than a simple yes or no. Archaeology has shown that Homer's world was real. The kingdoms existed, the trade routes existed, and Troy itself stood where ancient tradition remembered it. But Odysseus remains beyond the reach of history. Perhaps he was one man, perhaps he was many. Or perhaps he became a legend long before his story was written down. We may never know. But maybe that isn't the greatest mystery. Perhaps the real miracle is that a poem preserved fragments of a lost civilization for nearly 3,000 years, long enough for archaeology to recognize them. History and myth are not always opposites. Sometimes, myth is where history chooses to survive.